Good evening and welcome to the LaRouche Movement's weekly battle report. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd. I'm Michelle Aaron, your host. We are now in a moment of maximum danger and potential. Negotiations toward peace between Russia and Ukraine are sending shockwaves through the purveyors of a permanent NATO alliance. The United States, under a president whose competency is becoming more and more questionable, is heating things up in an illegal push against Venezuela, among many, many other crises. The mission is to redouble our efforts to end the paradigm of warfare and Wall Street looting. We can cooperate with the BRICS. We can stop wasting money on arms buildups and instead address the needs of infrastructure development and modernization of our nation. The intervention of the LaRouche movement is crucial in this picture. We present this evening 3 points of intervention from the past week. First, we're going to hear from Diane Sare, who spoke last night on the urgency to leave NATO. Second is 2 actions taken by Jose Vega, a LaRouche movement member in the United States running for U.S. Congress, in the leadership that he is taking to present positive alternatives for his district, but connected to the worldwide humanity. Then we will see a few items on the intervention this past week by the LaRouche movement to place front and center the idea for the restoration of Glass Steagall Banking Act, a launch pad for the reorganization of the physical economy. First, let's hear from Diane Sare, who spoke last night in a dialogue with Garland Nixon, a podcaster and veteran radio and TV political analyst, in an interview that, as of this morning, had over 5,000 views.
Hello all, we're here with a brilliant politician and activist, Diane Sare. All right. Hi. And before we get started, we always have to have a word from Keir Starmer. Let's see what he has to say about our plan to get rid of NATO. He's not real happy about it, but that's okay. I'm sure.
Was that with British accent? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, close enough. But it did kind of sound like it, what Keir Starmer would say if he heard us talking about getting rid of the money back. You know, something. Let's start here. I mean, we can go so many places, but I think one of the things is starting. You have to do. One of the things I always talk about is before you're going to deal with any problems. You know, there's like problem solving models, and all of them start with one thing. Define the problem. Before you're going to have to solve a problem, you have to define the problem. You have to define NATO. NATO was supposedly a defensive organization to save the West from the evil Soviet Union that was coming to get them, what they always had to make that up. But one of the things that appears obvious now, as you look at what's happening in Kiev, is it's a big ATM. It's a basket of corruption. That NATO is one of the most, if not the most corrupt organization on earth, Diane.
Well, I think that's without question. That we also have BlackRock, and I think one of the ways to understand NATO is the enforcer of this globalist billionaire elite club, because right now they're trying to buy weapons like the airplanes from Sweden, which won't even be available. I think they can't produce them for 3 years, but they're putting in the orders. And I saw in a French newspaper a couple months ago an article headlined "Defense Stocks Crash or Take a Dive on News That Ukraine War Might End." So in effect, NATO has become the arm of this gigantic billionaires bubble to ensure that there is a state of perpetual war to keep a handful of elite getting rich while everyone else either dies or gets poorer.
Yeah, it looks like it's like the violence arm, the muscle, you know, in the mafia, you know, if they want to threaten you, they'll send a guy out because they call him a gorilla, and he's to punch you, maybe break your arms to let you know, if you don't pay or do what they want soon, right. that he, worse things could happen. And it seems to be that NATO is the gorilla of finance capital, the city of London and the empire. You know, the empire wants to go around the world and steal everything that isn't nailed down and then go back and steal the nails. But they got to have, who is the guy? Friedman, who said you can't have McDonald's without McDonnell Douglas.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, I think your analogy is actually very apt on NATO. And I think the question, what was its purpose, which no one even knows anymore. No one talks about it. I mean, did we drop, I think they were humanitarian bombs that we dropped on Libya. Remember that? That was a NATO deployment, was it not? What did that have to do with defending ourselves from communism? I mean, the whole thing has become so far removed. I mean, clearly it should have been ended when the Warsaw Pact ended, if not soon. I mean, frankly, the whole division at the end of World War II was insane, if we want to go back that far.
Now to Jose Vega. Candidate Jose Vega in New York's 15th Congressional District in the Bronx began a new series this week titled A New Deal for the Bronx. In this first episode, Jose presents an alternative to the overly congested Cross Bronx Expressway, which anyone who's been on it knows it's a complete disaster. So his proposal, the Cross Bronx train line, would go from Bay Plaza to Manhattan and then across the GW Bridge into Fort Lee, New Jersey. It would be the first train line connecting the Bronx from east to west and would dramatically improve the lives of everyday commuters.
People are tired of the Cross Bronx Expressway. With over 200,000 vehicles crossing every single day, the Cross Bronx Expressway, people come from Connecticut to New Jersey into New York City, and something has to be done about it. Many of my opponents say stopping the expansion of the Cross Bronx Expressway is the solution, but quite frankly, that's not even close to enough. What I'm proposing is an alternative solution, a Cross Bronx train line. The Bronx does not have a single east to west train line. 40% of traffic could be reduced just by building a train line that goes from Bay Plaza in the Bronx all the way to Manhattan and underneath the George Washington Bridge. That could cause immediate alleviation in the Bronx. That way anyone who wants to come in from New Jersey can leave their car parked in Fort Lee, New Jersey. People's lives will dramatically shift. Imagine being able to go to New Jersey on a single Metro card or now Omni card swipe. The people agree.
I'm Mike Cordero. I live over here in the community. They call me the mayor, everybody over here, so you're talking to the mayor.
Okay. We don't have any east to west trains.
Right.
You know, we've only got Cross Bronx buses, but you know, the BX35, the BX36, the BX12, or they're like people like sardines in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I made a video not too long ago driving by the Cross Bronx, and I said, look at all these trucks, look at all this stuff, and there's a high aspect rate in the country right here, and it's because of this.
It's time for the Bronx to have a Cross Bronx train. You know, that would take you from Bay Plaza all the way to Manhattan.
Wow.
What do you think?
That'd be great.
Right? And not only that,
Great.
but it would extend into the George Washington Bridge so that there would be a stop in Fort Lee, New Jersey, so that people who drive in can leave their car.
Wow, that would be some great idea. That would be fantastic because you got a lot of commuters that don't want to pay the toll, so it'll be at their advantage doing that. That'd be great. That's great. Jose, you're on top of it, man. I appreciate your helping and getting this done because it'll benefit everybody in the city.
This is the beginning of my idea for a Bronx New Deal. A new deal for the Bronx, a new deal for New York City, and a new deal for the country.
Build the Cross Bronx train.
Beautiful. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank the man.
Thank you.
Now, Jose is not merely a local candidate. He is a world citizen. And that was underscored by his participation last month in an international LaRouche movement conference held in Paris. The Solidarité et Progrès Party, the LaRouche party in France, released 2 days ago an interview conducted between their candidate, Sébastien Peramoni, and José Vega while José was in Paris. The aptly titled interview is from the Bronx, our anti-Wall Street candidate. We'll watch a section from the opening of the interview.
So, hello everyone. We are very happy to be with José Vega, who is here in Paris, France. And José Vega is running now for the Congress in the Bronx, New York City, United States of America. And José Vega came to France to participate for a 3-day conference organized by Solidarité et Progrès, the political party of Jacques Cheminade, and the Schiller Institute, the International Schiller Institute. And during this conference, we had many speakers from all around the world, from South Africa, Ivory Coast, Mexico, United States of America. And José Vega, who is running now for the Congress, in the middle of his campaign, decided to come to France to share his experience as an organizer, as an activist in the US, fighting the oligarchical principle there. So we are happy to have you here in France. And just to start, maybe a word why you decide to come to France to participate to this conference in the middle of your campaign in the US.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's good to be here. It's good to be in France. I actually tried escargot for the first time. It's very good. With some bread, butter, garlic. It's very good food here. And the wine and cheese is very good. But part of the reason I'm here is because the Schiller Institute was putting on the international conference. And, it's always good to kind of be reminded that we don't exist in a bubble. Americans are often accused of being too isolated, that we don't actually engage with other countries. I don't know how many Americans speak another language, even though America is composed of immigrants, But to be able to come here to France has been very eye-opening for me. And I'm glad I came. I decided to take the time because I said, look, it's very important for me to be able to relate to a lot of the constituency that is in New York, and also to understand better not just where they come from, but also the sort of universality.
Now on the fight for Glass Steagall. First, I'd like to draw your attention to the new updated Glass Steagall webpage on the LaRouche organization website, which you can find by going through the homepage or going to LaRoucheorganization.com/glass_Steagall. This page has been updated to host a whole bunch of materials for you to go out and organize. Download the latest leaflet on Glass Steagall. There's various articles, there's a bunch of videos that we've produced over the recent years, because we need more activity, more reports, more actions towards getting this to take place. We have 2 organizing reports this evening on activity around, actually 3 reports, on activity around Glass Steagall this past week. We'll start with Bob Baker, the Schiller Institute Farm Bureau chief. He reports on the passage this past weekend by the Kansas Cattlemen's Associations of a resolution in support of Glass Steagall, just this past weekend. But he's also going to indicate a lot of the work, the tremendous amount of work in organizing that he and the rest of us have done over years, including 73 articles in the monthly journal of the Kansas Cattlemen's Association, and recent organizing over the past few weeks throughout the Midwest. And Bob will read from some of the Glass Steagall Resolution, which is highly useful to hear some of what was in its contents, and then we'll go to another organizing report.
Hello, I'm Bob Baker. I'm with the Schiller Institute Agricultural Commission, and I'd like to give a short report on some activity that we just finished organizing in the Midwest amongst ranchers and farmers. We went through different states from Oklahoma to Kansas to South Dakota to Iowa to Minnesota. We visited with ranchers and cattlemen and farmers. And then we went to the Kansas State Cattlemen's Convention. LaRouche organization puts a 2-page article into the Kansas Cattlemen's weekly or monthly newsletter every month, or about every month, and we've now put 73 weekly or monthly issues in. So in this issue, it's if I can show it here, I'll just give a quick glance at. This is the one that was handed out to everybody that came to the Kansas Cattlemen's Convention, and in it is an article quoting Lyndon LaRouche, where he says, the warning and solutions were issued years back by economist Lyndon LaRouche. It said LaRouche released a statement titled "Not an Option, an Immediate Necessity," in which he stated, the economy of the United States of America and also that of the transatlantic political economic regions of the planet are now under immediate mortal danger of general physical economic chain reaction breakdown crisis of that region of this planet as a whole. And he says the name of that direct breakdown crisis throughout those indicated regions of the planet is the presently ongoing introduction of a general bail-in action under several or more governments of the region. Now, this was back in 2014. So here we are in 2025, and the farmers and the businessmen, they're all feeling how serious this is. So at the Kansas Cattlemen, they passed a resolution calling for the restoration of the Glass Steagall Act. And they said, whereas there is an imminent danger of another financial blowout bigger than 2009 because nothing was done to fix the underlying dynamic of uncontrolled mega bank speculation, our nation won't survive more bailouts and consolidation. Whereas we need sound banking to extend credit to rebuild infrastructure and productivity, modern rail systems, now new water, nuclear power, rural hospitals, upgraded waterways, with millions of new jobs and a secure farm sector. And they had that, and in the process they said, whereas the 1933 Glass Steagall Act worked for 66 years to keep separate, useful community banking and speculative financial entities. Therefore, be it resolved, Kansas Cattlemen's Association calls on the Kansas congressional delegation and all of Congress to reenact the Glass Steagall Act. So I want to end there and just mention that we had tremendous discussions, discussed with the new president of the Kansas Cattlemen, Jesus Holgren, and we're going to have more discussions about this, and it's a very powerful thing. So we had meetings all across those states about the Glass Steagall Act and why we've got to act immediately. Thank you.
Hey, this is Art Murphy with the LaRouche organization. Hope you all had a good, happy Thanksgiving. I'm out here with Richard Connolly, and Pamela Connolly, and Ilko Dimov. And we just had a street artist, whose name is Caleb, doing a little street art for us in favor of our campaign. You see here on the sidewalk where it says "Restore Glass Steagall, join LaRouche." That goes together with our campaign here to bring back FDR's Glass Steagall and cut out the speculators, drug traffickers, and the warmongers. Anyway, here it is.
Another intervention this week was made by Dennis Small from the Ibero American desk of Executive Intelligence Review, who made a crucial input into the discussion of this past Friday's dialogue, the weekly dialogue of the International Peace Coalition. Peace is not merely the absence of war. Peace requires development. As with the insistence by LaRouche and the LaRouche movement that the Oasis Plan with economic development, including water, power, and transportation systems, are a necessary component for a lasting peace in Southwest Asia. We see the beginning now of Dennis's presentation to the International Peace Coalition this past Friday on what a global Glass Steagall would look like.
So this is where we get optimistic because the solutions are absolutely at hand, as Helga said. And in addition to the overwhelming drive historically of what's going on, there is a clear pathway, an economic pathway to resolve the underlying problem. A number of speakers have said, what in the world is stopping the West from taking a sensible approach, a reasonable approach to working things out? Well, have you ever heard of Wall Street? Have you ever heard of the City of London? And this is why Lyndon LaRouche, going back a number of years, pointed in particular to the importance of returning to the 1933 Glass Steagall Standard under Franklin Delano Roosevelt as the first of 4 necessary steps to actually resolve the underlying problem of the breakdown of the global system and replace it with one which answers the needs of the population, east and west, north and south. Now, first, just to tell you a little bit about what Glass Steagall says. It's a law that was passed in 1933 under Roosevelt. It's 37 pages as printed in the Congressional record, H.R. 5661. And really, all you really need to hear is the opening paragraph, which says the following: an act to provide for the safer and more effective use of the assets of banks, to regulate interbank control, to prevent the undue diversion of funds into speculative operations and for other purposes. To prevent the diversion of funds into speculative operations. This is a kind of preamble to the law, and it has many details which are, of course, quite important in and of themselves, but that preamble states the intent. No speculation, credit for production. It's not unlike the preamble to the Constitution of the United States, which declares an intent, which is an overriding intent of the entire Constitution, and says to remind ourselves who are Americans and to also advise others who are not on this call, the preamble of the 1787 Constitution says, "We the people of the United States," that part is often cited, "in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare," and I emphasize that, promote the general welfare, "and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America." Now, the Glass Steagall Standard indicated exactly what I just read, that there should be no speculation. In 1999, the Glass Steagall Act was repealed by act of Congress under the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. President Clinton had actually been fighting against the repeal of the law, but then something happened, which was the whole Monica Lewinsky incident, which completely changed the course of the Clinton administration, both on the international front and on this front. Despite all of his other foibles, this was kind of the coup de grace. And in fact, for that reason, I would propose that we rename the bill ending Glass Steagall the Gramm-Leach-Bliley-Lewinsky Act, because that's what it actually was. Now, what I want to do is to briefly focus on 3 features to try to give people a concept of what's involved in a return to the Glass Steagall Standard in today's world. First, to look at this from the standpoint of the United States. Second, to look at the issue of Glass Steagall, or bank separation, from the standpoint of the global South, or a third world country. And third, to look at the overall intent, the global intent.
Cliffhanger. To hear the rest of Dennis's 17-minute presentation, go to the full discussion, the International Peace Coalition discussion from last Friday. Dennis begins at about an hour and 15 minutes into that discussion. We include a link in the video description with it'll take you exactly to that moment in the full discussion. You're strongly encouraged to watch the full discussion as well. We saw tonight the continuing organizing of the LaRouche movement to end wars and destruction and come to a more mature and probably happier state for humanity. Diane, Sare, and Jose Vega continue to play the role of leading spokesmen for sanity. LaRouche organizers, including Bob Baker, working with farmers throughout the United States, and Dennis Small as a key figure in both the International Peace Coalition and the Ibero American organizing operations of the LaRouche movement, contributed mightily this week to organizing for a Glass Steagall reorganization. Those are the reports that we have for this evening. Please get out there and organize. You can send in your reports, or if you have questions, need support, need materials, all of that, you can email in to info@laroucheorganization.com.